Okay, we live. We're live. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show. It is morning somewhere. It's definitely morning here. It might be morning there. You might notice that I'm not the usual one who reads the show in. That's because I've been rugged by both of them. Both Will and Evan have rugged me today, and that's fine because we're just gonna get something going. So I had a couple news items that I wanted to cover today. We'll cover some market stuff, and then I'm just going to take questions, and we're just going to hang out, and we are going to keep this super informal. Why are we live on a Sunday? Yeah, I know, Tori. I'm with you. The days of the week mean nothing to me anymore. I never know what day it is. Cosmic, thank you so much. That's wonderful. I really appreciate that. I needed that today. Rugged. I know. Super rugged. It's okay. I don't have to share the screen with anybody. Today it's all for me. I can complain about whatever I want. All right. So the first big thing that I noticed this morning that I just couldn't wait to talk about, because if you've been around the space a little bit, you have seen. Let's share the screen. And now I apologize. It's going to be a real struggle for me to do comments everywhere and to do multiple screen shares, but I'm going to do my goddamn best. So the story that I would like to hit today real quick. It is a bummer that those things don't show up elsewhere. So the story I wanted to hit is that Tether is apparently in talks with a number of auditors ahead of the US doing some stablecoin legislation, regulation type of stuff. So this is interesting. It's been a minute since Tether has been audited, and the previous audits admittedly have left a little something to be desired. Jessica got a screenshot of it. Thank you so much. So the one thing that I'm curious about is just what's changed, because if they're pushing for the audit as opposed to being chased for it, I would imagine that they've gotten ducks in a row. I'm very curious. This is one. So for anyone who doesn't know or hasn't seen this, every single time they did rug me, yes, every single time the markets experience any sort of uncertainty, okay, any kind of volatility, usually to the downside, it's always coupled with the emergence or the re-emergence of all of the Tether's going to go under predictions. They happen all the time. Okay, it is part of the market being down for Tether FUD to rear its ugly head. It's almost never. I don't think I've ever really seen it founded in anything legitimate. The last big one was because of Tether not being MiCA compliant and being delisted across Europe. As you guys can now see, it didn't matter at all. It was basically a nothing burger. And now that the US is starting to push a little bit farther ahead on potentially putting something on the floor, Tether doesn't want to be left out of the picture. So this makes perfect sense. It would have been weird if they didn't do something. We'll see. Shorting now. Best of luck. Godspeed. It's hard to say. It really depends on the time frame, and honestly, the uncertainty around this is exactly why I only hold things long term, or just sell with regards to. Okay, so let's hit that. That's a good point. Okay, so we'll share a different screen. Obviously, we've got a little bit of green today, and well into from yesterday. So the week is green across the board, a little bit, low single digit percentages for the most part. A couple tenors floating around, but overall, we are up over the past. I think it's been since about March 10th. So yeah, just about 2 weeks now. We've kind of been like lightly trending up. So that's the question on everybody's mind. You know, are we so back? I see every single crypto live stream now is just titled "Alt Season is on" or "We're so back" or something, right? We'll take a 5% dip, and they'll all say it's all over instead. So that shit doesn't mean anything to me. Overall, nothing has really changed in the big picture, right? There's not really been, at least for me, I haven't seen a single reason to think, okay, we're all done, unless it is just all nonsense, which I would believe. So if you believed in the narrative, or, subscribe to the narrative that big money wanted time to load up, they suppressed some prices, they bought their stuff, and now they can resume. Okay. I get it. I hear it. There's definitely market manipulation happening. We've seen it firsthand repeatedly. Every time a tweet comes out that craters everything, and then a corresponding tweet comes out that repumps it all back up again, someone's just getting bonkers rich, longing, shorting, closing out, liquidating people, all that good stuff. So in that sense, this is exciting. What am I doing? I'm selling some stuff because I was buying the whole time that it's been down. So I'm scraping off a little bit off the top. Could we continue to go? Thank you. Could we continue to go up any higher? 100%. Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen, of course, now what are we talking about? We're talking about predictions into the 90s for Bitcoin, that is, setting a new all-time high, just cracking 100K. Like, all these things are possible. In that sense, I will continue to sell stuff. I will continue to scrape profits off the top. Every single moment that we spend pushing up, no matter how tiny it is, I'm adding to the stablecoin bag. So as the market continues to go up, my stablecoin bag is just getting bigger. The Bitcoin, Jeff, in answer to your question, my Bitcoin I never sell. I sell everything else, not Bitcoin. I'm allergic to selling Bitcoin. It hurts. It makes me break out in hives. So anyway, I wish that I could give you like more, I guess, details about like where I think things are going. I think that there's a couple scenarios that I could see playing out if I was, to enter speculation zone. Number one, the clickbait is real. We're so back. Fantastic. Great. Okay. Love it. Awesome. Altcoin season's on. Everything is great. Let's forget all of the terrible things that are happening all over the place. Seems unlikely. More likely is that situation is dire. It looks bad for a lot of people. Let me try to find that one chart. This is like one of my annoying hobbies, is trying to hunt down that price chart. So there's a chart that shows you like a heat map of where money is and where longs and shorts and all that sort of stuff are. There it is, Nick. 55K possible in June and July. Yep. I love you dearly. 55K is possible next week. 120K is also possible next week. I don't find these helpful. And I know every time market, honestly, it's one thing that CoinGlass, thank you, Misty. Every time the markets do literally anything, someone comes out with just a ludicrous prediction in either direction. Yeah, it's possible. I don't know why do we do that? Is it just attention? Like, Nick, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Why? Like, why do we? Is it just like in the off chance that happens, you can be like, hey, remember this one time I said it? Pattern recognition. Okay, so what pattern? Which one are we doing? Because I have such a hard time with TA, dude. I have such a hard time believing it's anything other than a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because now, think about it this way. Okay, so if I was the big guy, if I was big money, this is the third scenario, right? That it's just like super manipulated and it's just all garbage and none of it means anything, and none of the money coming in or going out right now is retail. Retail's just getting rinsed over and over and over again. No one has any money to invest in stuff. So, Nick, if you're in a position to come up, you can request if you want, because I'm curious about the whole 4-year cycle and what you think about it, just because I know that you're super limited trying to like answer any questions or like provide any context in TikTok comments to give you like 6 words. Okay, give me 2 seconds. We'll do that. Sweet. Appreciate it. Anyway, last thing I was going to say on the manipulation front. Let's say that we subscribe to that. No, what's up? See you, dude. If that was me, I'd be like, okay, it's been down. People are continuing to short. I'm going to squeeze them out. And that's why I was going to, when Nick comes up here and gives me just a quick pause here as he explains himself, I'm going to try to pull up that liquidity map, because I'm curious to see how many shorts were open, or like on these last couple days, were there any like major, short liquidations or anything like that? These are all things that Will is better at than me, that he rugged me out of this morning. But okay, let's bring Nick up. Good morning. What's going on, man?
How are you?
Dude, I'm holding down the fort. I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Good. Just in rain. A lot of rain.
I feel you.
Uh,
Really quick before Nick gets too far off, I think I'm doing this right. So if someone on the YouTube side could let me know whether or not you guys can hear Nick, that would be greatly appreciated. And then Nick, take it away. So I'm curious, just because obviously, you know, every time anything happens, right, someone tosses out just a number that most people would look at and say, this is silly. Whether it's, you know, we're going up and it's okay, it's 250K is imminent, or like we're going down to 55 or whatever. 4-year cycle. So I'm a big believer in the whole idea that every single bull run, people say this time is so different, that's why X, Y, and Z is going to happen, and then basically the same shit just kind of keeps happening. So this time is really the first time that I think we've seen like a major deviation from the 4-year cycle. So I'm curious which things you're seeing that makes you think it's still on, or was that you kind of just guessing or hoping, or do you think it's still a thing?
a lot of, to be honest, I don't even really read charts anymore. I just look at them occasionally. And it's really just to see where I'm at in the cycle. So I still firmly believe in the cycle. I just think we're skewed. So maybe we're a little higher, a little low, based off of wherever. But I looked at the Bitcoin chart about a week ago, and I firmly believe we're somewhere around, it was either December 2021 or December of 2020, where we started to kind of eventually move up. About every month or two, we went up. Kind of like like pillars almost. And I firmly believe that's going to happen for at least the next 5 or 6 months, or the opposite. We're going to go down and we're going to go to 55.
All right. So yeah, I think you're thinking of December 2020, because 2021 we had topped and we fell off a cliff in December. So another historical thing that would have to break if we hit 55 would be that historically, when a new president is elected, that becomes the bottom, and that's held for, you know, these last how many years. Obviously, we don't have a tremendous amount of data. It's one of those things I say all the time. We don't have a ton of data. It's a very young asset in the grand scheme of things. I feel like if we lose that level, it won't be quite as impactful. I don't know that I haven't heard that like kicked around a lot, right? That like the bottom is going to be 70 something because of the election. So I'm wondering, you know, how much of an impact it would make if we did lose it. Because of course you might think like, okay, if we lose 70, then it would be like, oh my God, all bets are off. Who knows where the bottom's going to be? I'm going to get the hell out of here. And then I could totally see, you know, like 50s kind of a thing. Because, you know, if you look at last time's bottom, we're in like the high teens. 50 would be an incredible improvement upon that if it held there. Would you so are you of the mind that if it went down to that low, that you would think like, okay, that feels bottomy to me, you know, like 50s ish?
Unless Tether implodes.
So okay, did you see that they're asking for audits now and they're talking to a bunch of auditors?
Yeah, that would be my only thing, is Tether could implode and then they could use that as FUD.
I think Tether imploding would be, I struggle to think of a single instance that would be a bigger deal. Maybe Michael Saylor like turning out to be, you know, a Sam Bankman-Fried, or like Coinbase going under or something.
I think what they were talking about yesterday in politics, as far as like how we can supposedly take our gold reserves and trade them out for Bitcoin. I think that's going to be a big thing too.
Seen some whisperings about that. I know that there's rumors and whisperings about trying to audit Fort Knox and all this sort of stuff, which I think is a little bit silly, because we've, you know, how many years ago did we leave the gold standard? So of course there's not enough gold to back up all of the circulating dollars anymore. But yeah, I saw a little bit of that. I guess, you know, okay, if we played that out, now wouldn't be the worst time, because comparatively, Bitcoin is way down against gold in the past. Well, I don't know how long, actually. That's got to be a chart I can pull up, right? Bitcoin versus gold.
I think ETH is going to be the winner this cycle, to be honest with you.
It's really hard to think like, okay, if they manage to, and I don't like constantly relying on government for all this kind of crap, but in the ETH camp, if staking gets turned on for the ETFs, and all of a sudden now the ETF providers have the option to pay a dividend out towards anyone who buys those ETFs, or because that would be sweet, yield bearing asset that actually helps benefit it's one of the few things I could think of that could happen that would be like good for the network with regards to institutions getting in. But I think also it could be interesting to see whether or not they just use it to make more money. Like if they split the difference and keep some of the yield for themselves and then pay out a smaller dividend, right? And in that case, all of a sudden everyone's incentivized to hold some ETH. And
that's why Trump does own ETH.
And I mean, not just own some ETH though, like a tremendous amount. And of course, his son has become a little bit of a Kramer, and every time he tweets, it's a good time to short. So I'm curious to see what are they leaning into that. And two, as far as I know, and we could check Arkham, although I'm sure that not all of it's there. That's not one that's been getting dumped, although they did hide it. They moved it over to Coinbase so that we couldn't track it anymore on Arkham. I think it's funny to watch people like this just slowly figure out how blockchain works when they realize like we can all see what they're doing.
What's interesting to me though is how we have Elon doing all this auditing and Doge stuff, and then like his cars are falling apart on the road.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy to me. But like I like Elon, so I'm not really that big of a deal. But like to me, it's just kind of baffling that we have someone that's got cars and things that they supposedly put their name behind falling apart on those streets, and we're letting them audit our whole entire country.
Trust me, I have lots of opinions about that. But yeah, especially considering that the most recent recall is for a 9-foot long piece of metal just coming unglued and projectiling down the highway. Terrified. I remember Whistling Diesel when he did the initial like destroy a truck thing with the Cybertruck, and he just like one hand and pulled that whole piece off. We all realized how much glue was holding it together. Are they falling apart? Heather, they are indeed, yes.
I think engineers are losing like their finesse. Like I think they're just kind of like, let's just duct tape it or glue it, and like that'll work for like an extended period of time, and then it'll break, and then we'll have to buy more stuff.
It's okay. All right, so the Elon defenders are coming out. This is not. That's one conversation. This is more just a point that if you have so many things going on and you're continuously trying to undertake more and more and more things, you have to button your shit up.
Yeah, he's hands down the smartest person in the world. I'm not gonna lie, but he's probably one of the most
smartest person in the world. Come on. Give me a break.
But he wants to go and like, do things like you said, like over the top and do so many things and do it all at one time. And like, he can't, it's impossible unless he has a group of people that do it for him. And we saw how PayPal and all that stuff worked. So,
yeah, just because I can see this is where the comments are going. Listen, guys, the most annoying game that you can play with me is whataboutism. And trust me, I'm very aware that other car companies have recalled stuff too. Okay, that's not what it's about. It's not. You know what? Honestly,
car companies aren't auditing our government, though.
There you go. Yeah, it is nuance. The death of nuance is quite literally an epidemic across this entire planet right now, and it bothers me deeply. You're correct that other car companies have had recalls, and some of them have been worse than this, and some of them have been not as bad as this, and that's totally fine. Like Nick said, it's topical because the dude is doing 19,000 other things at the same time. The cars are not getting the attention, and he's meddling in he's dicking around in the treasury, and it just makes me nervous.
We might as well just put a bunch of crackheads in a room and see what happens. Really.
I just don't trust it. It's as simple as that. I don't trust anybody with an ulterior motive that heavy. So in that sense, to tie it back into the market movements, if that's the prevailing theory, and I'm a big fan of Occam's razor, which is just the idea that the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. In the short term, I could see us continuing to go, up a little bit more, but I also wouldn't be surprised if this lasted a day or two. and then turn back around. Even if we were trying to establish some sort of a new uptrend, nothing has changed. Like in the grand scheme of things that influence markets, absolutely nothing has changed between last week and this week, or 2 weeks ago.
I've been in this market for so long, and the cycles for so long, that I don't even put any emotion behind anything anymore. I just kind of have what I have, and if I stake it, I stake it. If I don't, I don't. And I have some sitting to the side to sell. Like, it is what it is. But I don't put any emotion behind it because, like, you know how I am, Alex. I invest in tech. I don't invest in FUD.
And I mean, I'm with you, dude. I don't remember the last time I had an emotional reaction to the chart moving. It's always just like, okay, here's the thing. What do we do? And like I said, it's been the single biggest level up in my ability to retain any money. And now on paper, it's significantly less than the people who like post the big screenshots on Twitter and stuff like that. But I don't have a single position that's red, and we could lose more than 50. Actually, I say that so confidently.
I could lose a very large bag of AVAX if I didn't lose it all. So I'd still have Avalanche.
And that's at what? Oh, 21. Okay. It's a little. Oh, and that's like the biggest one for the week at 16.2% for the week.
But I was one of those people too. I mean, I bought it $140 Avalanche. I mean, I was one of those idiots, like
I do
just
remember.
Like, oh, I think we're going. I think we're doing it. And I was a believer, and that's why I don't believe in that anymore. I think it's more or less, let's just stack assets and stop worrying about USD.
Well, and it's tough too because, take the Avalanche, right? That's a great example of something that fundamentally is improving its situation, right? It's growing in the right ways. There are more people that are sitting there using it. There's a growing number of projects launching there and staying there. The token price took an absolute shit, and tons of projects built on Avalanche, their token prices also took an absolute dump. And yet the user base did not disappear in the way that you would usually expect something like that. So fundamentally, and like on paper, the numbers that are supposed to be numbering are looking fine, but nothing about the way that the asset is behaving as an investment is like reflective of what I would call a pretty strong ecosystem. One of the reasons that I still have some of it, just because it's like a free and clear kind of position. It's made me many times over how much was into it, and now I just kind of have the same like little bag of AVAX. But I don't know, man. It doesn't make sense, and I share your frustration for sure, because that's one of the things that I love doing, right? Is I love digging around and looking for promising little altcoins that are doing something cool that might actually have a shot at solving some sort of an issue, maybe knocking on the door of product market fit. But it feels like you're wasting your time right now to chase those rabbit holes.
I think a lot of people should look more into, like, maybe not transactions per second, but blocks per second as well. And a lot of these things, like, for instance, not a lot of people know, but Solana does about 2 blocks or 2.1 blocks or something like that, somewhere around there. And then you have Aptos that does 6.6. So it's like nobody even really knows what Aptos is, but I try to preach it because I know, like, there's some tech behind it, and I know it's probably going to be one of those investor coins or whatever, but it does have some validity, and that's kind of what I believe in, is more long-term success. It's not like I'm 60 years old and I have to have 2 more cycles and I'm dead. I got another 30 years.
Well, and I think it's fair to say too that Solana is a good example of one of the ways that an ecosystem or a project or a foundation has managed to kind of break away from that a little bit, in the sense that it's got to be just like raw tech, or we have to have just, the benefactor of extreme manipulation, in that, okay, well, if you can establish a viral enough culture, then you can keep users kind of regardless. And that can really be the ultimate lifeline. And so I think that if more projects start to take a page out of that book and acknowledge the fact that, hey, tech-wise, either we're not in a position where we really truly care that much, or we're at a place where we can just say, hey, good enough to take it to the next level adoption-wise. Because something that I think is undoubtedly true, that I'm open to arguing about for sure, but I don't think a single blockchain that exists right now outside of Solana that has a metric on paper that is more impressive, whether it's throughput related, whether it's some sort of, arguably more decentralized consensus mechanism, whether it's, better node distribution, whether it's faster TPS in an ideal setting, or whether it's literally anything else. I don't think any of that shit matters to anybody. I think that all of these things that are like faster and cheaper than ETH, where you can submit a transaction and sometime within the next 2 or 3 seconds, you get the confirmation that it's good and you spent less than a penny to do it. I don't think anything else matters. And all of those places that have achieved that now need to focus on culture, telling a story, and getting people to want to be there, even if they're not there to just farm an airdrop, because that's where they're losing everybody right now. You can totally lure people in, and you can totally, get some really good looking activity on chain and stuff, and then you have to try to keep them. And the one that I'm curious about, I'm curious if you have an opinion on this one, Nick, is Abstract. Is the first one that I've seen where, okay, you know what, they hit like a baseline of, throughput and transaction costs and speed and whatever, and they called it good enough, and now they're just trying to do the culture play. And we'll see if it works. The streaming services took a big hit, but people are still collecting XP. I know a lot of it's because they're airdrop farming, but it's undoubtedly there. And it's at least an attempt, and I'll give them that. Base, I think, is attempting culture, whether it's good or bad, or whether it appeals to not enough people or the wrong kind of people, whatever, all up for debate. But I'm curious, have you messed with Abstract at all in any way, or you kind of have like what you're focused on, and you're not really looking outside of it right now?
I haven't looked into that one fully, but there is like other projects that I look at just that I'm interested in that I either like or move on from or whatever. But
you want to rapid fire a few of them?
Aptos. I like Aptos. I like ICP, obviously. I like Sui. I like Celestia, if you like Celestia. I think that's where I was going. I think a lot of this year's cycles, or this cycle, is going to be modularity. I think we're losing track of that. And I think Celestia is going to be a big player. And I think that one might shock a lot of people. As far as like monetary value and increasing in the ranks as far as market cap and stuff like that. Sui already has kind of, and that's kind of why I was talking about it before it even kind of went up, but I don't see Sui really getting below or above, that 8 place all the way up to like maybe 22.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to like really deviate from that very much. So I really don't see it getting very big, like an Avalanche or a Solana, because of the back to market and how much they already had previously. Because that's all going to come back into play. That's why I try to teach people is like it's cyclical, but also like it was an algorithm. Like the whole thing is an algorithm. So if you don't believe in the algorithm and you think the algorithm's going to break, then it's going to break. But if it doesn't break, then it's going to follow the cycle.
I feel you. Yeah, I think all the ones that you listed are very classic projects that I would hear from someone who is more tech interested. I would say that the single biggest thing that every single one of those is missing is any semblance of personality, and I think that's just going to keep hurting them. And it can be worked on too. I think that's the part that bothers me, is that these foundations have tremendous amounts of money and they're not making any effort to, like, whether they think that it would be lame or like undercut or kneecap, their push, to like be more of a tech focused kind of venture. They don't think they need any kind of culture. I mean, I don't know. I know I keep saying culture over and over and over again, but like take Sui, for example. Massively ambitious undertaking at the time that they launched to be general purpose. Basically it was the first of things that were kind of colloquially referred to as Solana killers. Could do the thing, could function the same way. Obviously it chose a different consensus mechanism with Narwhal and Tusk, but made zero effort past the first 2 or 3 weeks. I remember when they first opened their Discord, it exploded. This was early last year, or the end of the year before.
Yeah, I thought it was going to overtake time.
Yeah, and then it just sort of, just nothing. Not even a whisper, like no personality at all. And I just think that's crazy, man. I think it's crazy for an ecosystem, especially a good one that functionally can really get something done, to not even take a stab at it, personality wise. Anyway, Nick, I appreciate you taking some time and coming up and joining me for a second. Do you have anything else you're interested in? Anything else? Any other final thoughts? Anything else that's got your eye lately? Or are you kind of just hunkering down?
I think Ondo is a good real world asset play. I also think Eigenlayer is a good one. I haven't really researched a lot, but I think that's another one a lot of people are getting into. And to be honest, if you're really interested in this kind of stuff, just get on X and research yourself, because Twitter has a lot of this stuff and they put in charts and figures and everything else. And also listen to these guys on the Crypto Morning Show, just because like if you go in blind, you're going to lose. No questions asked. So you might as well at least go after something that you have a little bit more knowledge in and a little bit more stake, and you can kind of be a part of the community too.
Well said. Yeah, I would say for sure that reading some of the more technical nitty gritty kind of details and stuff, Twitter is the place. It's where the industry lives. You'll find a disturbing lack of casual users there. So if that's what you're looking for, I wouldn't, you got to kind of combine your forces. But if you're looking to get like quick updates and more tech heavy conversations about who's doing what and why and all that sort of stuff, and then sort of, the big like talking heads of the industry getting their reactions to whatever, then for sure it's all on Twitter, 100%. All right, Nick, yep. I appreciate it, man. Have a good rest of your day, and thanks for hopping up and keeping me company a little bit here today as I fly solo.
Yeah, I appreciate it, dude. You have a good one too.
Of course. All right, Home, we're gonna bring you up if you're still interested, and then we'll go over to Nil. And Nick, I got you. Worries.
I don't know how to get out.
It's a little. I got you. There you go. All right, take it easy, man.
Easy, man.
All right, guys. So we're gonna keep it pushing. I appreciate everyone for hanging out and coming up to keep me company a little bit. All right, while we load in, where do we start for Web3? So first of all, right here is a great spot. The number one step that I would have to get started is truly learning the jargon. There are so many technical terms. There's so much nonsense. There's so many words that you're going to see come up over and over and over and over again. I just keep a giant running list, and when I don't know one, I write it down and I look it up later, and I start to put the pieces together. It just makes reading all of this stuff so much easier. And if in order to build up the tool belt that you need to do your own research, you got to speak the jargon. So that's step one for sure. What's going on?
Hello there.
How's it going?
Okay. Very well. Can you hear me okay?
I got you loud and clear.
Fantastic. Yeah. First off, I'll come in from the angle that in terms of blockchain, cryptocurrency, the whole sort of system, I would definitely put myself down as something of a noob compared to you guys who basically sound like you live and breathe it, which is not a bad thing, because I think you've got to keep on it. I mean, all the time, otherwise you go behind fast with the sound of it. But I think the one thing I've found over the last few years is that, I say a few years, I actually got in towards the top end of the last bull run, and then I learned so much as things started to come crashing down. Luckily, I kind of clenched myself a little bit, pulled out, and then I learned all my stuff as it came down and managed to get back in again with a lot more knowledge when everything started to bottom out. So I think I was quite lucky there. I love you guys because you've become so refreshing that you're just not, there's just no grift, and there's no, you're not pushing or plugging stuff all the time. You're just kind of keeping people aware of what's going on. But I've picked up a couple of your videos recently where you've been talking about how difficult it is now, just as I'm getting comfortable with trying to learn how to find good little projects worthy of putting your time and effort and money in. It's just so difficult now because you don't know what's going to happen. Everything just seems to revolve around either quick fixes or whatever the latest tweet is that's coming out from usually the States, your government side of things, whether it's Trump or Elon or, now it's almost more a matter of people just wanting to keep their eyes on things like Liberty World Finance, whatever they're buying in and chucking money at that because something's going to be going on in the background because how easily they can boost or tank the market with a single tweet. But one thing that came to mind is they say they want to keep putting money into a reserve and stuff like that. And yes, that would help, but they don't want to spend money on it. But one thing that came to mind is, do you think it's possible for the US government to have bonds, BTC-based bonds, to generate money and income to buy their reserve?
That's an interesting question. I think so. Yeah, I think there's a tremendous amount of things that they could do with it. It's whether or not we can get our shit together enough to get all of the different pieces in place that would be required to make something like that happen. So, if we're trying to restack like the makeup of the treasury, there's obviously quite a lot that goes into it. And kind of right now we're seeing this fracturing in the government, a break from the way that legally or traditionally things have been done. So I think that a lot of that matters on how the next little bit goes, especially with regards to kind of the basics of legislation. I think to do something bondish, we're getting a lot closer. Some of the pieces that we would need are there, right? Various banks and financial institutions being able to custody this stuff legally and to offer products and services to their clients if they want to. Then on the government side, you've got this decision to at least keep the Bitcoin that they have right now. And then, of course, there's just kind of a change in the attitude towards it as an asset. It's a little outside my wheelhouse to talk about like the way that all of the, building a new bond asset and stuff like that would work. I wouldn't do you guys all the disservice of listening to me try to bullshit my way through that one. But I would say that from what I do understand, we are heading in the direction to where something like that could actually be possible. Whether or not that's a good idea or not, I think could be debated, but I would say yeah, for sure. Getting there.
I mean, the other thing that's sort of struck me about you guys compared to a lot of others is that I'm not going to get into the political side of things, even though Bitcoin has, especially over the last year or two, been very politicized. Obviously, there seems to be quite a bit of divide between where BTC has been sort of driven by, on the political spectrum. It tends to be a little bit more to the right, a little bit more Republicans, a little bit more of the anti-mainstream, which I get. That's where it all started from, moving away from the mainstream. Do you feel a little bit down about the fact that this seems to be becoming more and more, not mainstream, but obviously becoming less decentralized as a concept and more taken over by investors from TradFi and all of your old, historic TradFi names are now fully involved and fully able to move the markets. Your BlackRocks, your Vanguards. How do you feel about that side of things?
It's a good question. There's a lot. They've always been able to move the markets, just the way that they talk. 100%, it's changed now, and yeah, some parts of it are very exciting, and some parts of it are really disturbing. The exciting part is really just that more people are looking at this than have ever looked at it before, and I think that's great because as we have the conversation about how can you actually do something to help improve the situation for so many people wherein they do not have enough money, they do not have good control over their financial assets, whatever they are, or they don't have any, how do you improve that situation for the most number of people? I truly believe the answer to that is decentralization, because it's just the game is just so stacked and so rigged. And I was actually listening to a really interesting interview yesterday just about, who are you supposed to tax to, put money back into these communities and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, well, you got to tax billionaires. And I'm like, listen, I'm all for making billionaires pay their fair share. But the counterpoint, which is upsetting but true, is that class of person is so hyper mobile that they'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And what happens when you have an exodus of wealthy people? The tax burden falls on people who already can't afford it and are already overtaxed. So it just gets worse, which sucks, because then the answer is like, okay, well, I guess you let these rich people hold you all hostage, which is like, well, shit, that's kind of where we're at. So in that sense, yeah, there's bigger and bigger money getting into these various cryptocurrencies in a bigger and bigger way, which obviously hurts the decentralization of it all. I think the tech prevails, and more people could build more and more systems that exist outside of it. And it would just be a matter of whether or not they get, whether you want to say infected by centralization and corporate greed, then or not. That's another conversation. But yeah, to answer your question, it's good and bad. I'm trying to focus on the positive, which is that more people, like I said, more people than have ever looked at this industry before are looking at it and aware of it. And that's why I am pushing so hard to try to have someone telling a better story about it, because I don't want everyone to think like, oh, this is just another grift. This is just another place where you can build hyper effective Ponzi schemes to siphon money out of people. And while it's true that exists, but go ahead.
Sorry, you've not been helped though, have you, in trying to get that? People are looking at it, but then when you've got, premiers of countries essentially making their own meme coins, and then not necessarily rug pulling in the definitive term, I suppose, but obviously holding so much of it that they can kind of do what they want. And then who were the losers in all of that? I mean, yes, there were some winners, but there was a lot of average people there with just a couple of $100 or a couple of $1,000 in it that just, will they come back again? That's your first experience of it.
Yeah, and I would say sometimes definitely no. There's so many different ways, and it's different for everyone who looks at it. There's so many different ways that you can enter the space, and like for example, the Trump meme. There was a lot to suggest that a tremendous number of people who initially bought into that had not done anything else on chain before. And these statistics and these metrics are always a little bit skewed, because there's plenty of people who have the wherewithal to be able to open a fresh wallet to do something for the first time, and that could look like a new wallet that hadn't existed, and then you'd have to try to be tracking like, okay, well, who funded it and all this sort of stuff. And a tremendous number of that percentage of new people who came in just for that have not done anything else since, which is obviously not great. You've had one experience, it was awful, and that is just sort of the story that's being propped up by the most people. Why would you look any further? And I think if anything could help, and I'm personally trying to work on this, it would be stablecoin legislation going through Congress, just to give banks or credit unions or any sort of really financial institution just more options, whether they do something that affects payments so that people can use stablecoins to pay for basic things, and they would be able to keep more money like in something like USDC. That could be interesting. Whether there are, we get more competition for better interest rates as people want to custody these things. All of these things are kind of on the table. It really depends, what they end up doing about it. But I think if that can come through and more people can be aware of that side of crypto, the stablecoin side, the things you can do with stablecoins and how they can help with, you want to have the cross-border payments conversation, it's stablecoins. It always has been stablecoins as the answer. So
definitely a good place to start, I think.
Oh, for sure. There's so many things you can do. If you look at DeFi Llama right now and just search down yield options sorted by USDC, and I'll show you here in case you guys haven't seen it before. If you go on DeFi Llama right off the homepage, you can come down here to the second menu item is yields. There's 14,500 pools that are currently being tracked. You just search by USDC, and right there you've got 261 options.
That's pretty crazy, isn't it? I didn't realize it was
2,161 options, over 470 different protocols on 102 blockchains.
Yeah,
of options.
Impressive, isn't it?
Just to do with USDC, and there's other stablecoins.
Everyone said that the Trump's when he had his press release and everything about the reserve and everything a couple of weeks ago, and everyone was a bit disappointed by what he came out with. One thing that seemed to go under the radar a little bit was how much he seemed to have freed up banks to allow them to start getting more invested themselves in not just Bitcoin, crypto in general, I think. that sort of flew under the radar, I think, because I think everyone's heads dropped a bit because it wasn't what they were expecting. But that's probably going to add quite a bit of momentum, I think. That deregulation on that side of things. Well, not deregulation, but it's allowing. That sounds like it's going to free up banks to be able to get more involved.
Clarification, yeah, because no rules changed, right? The laws that exist that allow banks to do that kind of stuff have always been there, but in the way that the SEC had been handling all of that kind of stuff recently, it was just not worth it. It was just too nerve-wracking. So yeah, the clarification there 100% could open up and help. But again, that kind of takes it back to your initial question, is that good or is that bad?
Yeah.
And I think that people really need to take a step back and consider when something is good for a short-term pump of price action, but is ultimately pretty rough over the grand scheme of things. We need to do a better job of differentiating between those two things, because I would say that banks getting way too involved and custodying way too much stuff and all that really, it not only defeats the purpose, but two, the only way that banks make money is by lending out money. That's what they do. That's how they make a living. They take money away from you and they do the work with it that you should be doing yourself, and they make a shitload of money and they give you a penny for your troubles. So in that sense, I would say that that kind of goes into the camp of like ultimately being one of the bad things for me.
Yeah. I mean, I studied political sciences and stuff, so it's always been a point of contention how the political divide view short-term game over long-term game, or vice versa. And there's always been quite a distinct leaning in one way or the other on how people view that kind of thing, politically speaking, if you're ideology-wise. But anyway, it's been wonderful to catch up with you. I'll let you go and let somebody else step in, as I'm sure they probably know far more about it than I am. You'll have a slightly higher level of conversation. But love your content, guys. Anyway, keep it up.
I really appreciate it. And no, these were really interesting questions. I really appreciate you taking the time to come up and keep me company and get some good conversation going. And I hope you have a good rest. It's what is it? Afternoon? You're in the UK?
Yeah, it's about 1ish here now. 1 in the afternoon. Take care, dude.
Likewise, man. It's good to talk to you. All right, Nil, if you're good, then I'm gonna toss you up here too, dude. So, all right, the one thing that I know is probably a little bit tough to see. What's up, man?
Yo.
On the TikTok side, I apologize for the screen share, but if you're curious about the USDC options and all that sort of stuff, it is just defilama.com/yields. And you'll see a search bar on top. Just type in USDC and hit enter, and you're going to come up with literally thousands of options of things you can do with USDC. And that is a great place to start falling down a rabbit hole, especially now. We talk about like, what's the way to play this super sketchy, super uncertain market? And Nil, I'm curious to get your thoughts on what you're looking at. But, the biggest, baddest investors on the TradFi side are cash heavy right now. And I'm cash heavy in crypto, but of course, in crypto, cash heavy means I'm stabled up and I'm farming yields in wherever I can get stuff. So I've got things on Aave just because it's big, it's established, it's safe. It's the one I'm the least concerned about taking a hit or going under. My two risks there are Aave going under, the biggest DeFi protocol on earth, or USDC depegging, probably the most rock solid stablecoin on earth. So there's that. And then other than that, there's some higher opportunities over on Morpho, and there's of course, some seedier options as you get down that list with higher percentage points that, as the yield goes up, so too does the risk. So keep that in mind. But Nil, welcome to the show, man. What's going on? What do you got your eye on?
Yeah, happy to be here, my friend. I see you're solo this morning, which just feels weird. Solo. I know it's kind of funny, but no, it's good to see you, man. And excited to take up any airtime I can, right, and hang out and do our thing. But I'm on the same page as you. Like I by the sheer luck of everything, called out when we hit 96 2 weeks ago, riding the hype off of the Trump tweet. I was like, guys, profits.
Yep.
Profits are all that matters right now. We've been here before, and the fact that we're just riding hype waves of social media posts tells me all I need to know. Take it away for yourself, right? And so I stapled up super heavy on that side. I've got some unique ecosystem things I'm always focused around, and so I like to make sure I have those kind of levels of exposure. But overall, it's passive right now. Everything's passive for me for sure. It's Morpho, it's Aave, like you said. Some things in the Polygon side, like Fluid, that just got announced with some interesting yields as well that we have direct relationships with. So like happy on those opportunities there, but overall, just like staying alert, right? I feel like right now is like, I don't know, for people that have been out here for a while, it's like kind of common sense that things quiet down, but it is like the level of uncertainty for, I guess, the newer or more common user, because there is no movement, I guess you could say, is like causing anxiety for at least like my community. That's for sure.
No, definitely. And it's too, because, you know, a lot of new people have entered very recently and they're being given, you know, their first round of advice from people who may not be the most qualified to offer objective advice, who are just kind of talking about, well, what happened last time, which leads to more confusion. It's like, well, wait a second. You know, the way that this worked out before is not currently working out. You know, like I was saying earlier, you can't just, and it sucks because it's like one of my favorite things ever. You can't just like pull random altcoins off the shelf and, you know, try to objectively, you know, quantify and speculate it and make what we would call a normal venture investment into something's potential. Because at this point, if it's not going to buy itself into World Liberty Financial's wallet, or it's not going to get a tweet, and it's not the new world reserve asset, it's like, well, shit, probably nobody gives a crap.
Throw it on the shelf.
Yeah, which sucks. But you know, I mean that the one thing that I would encourage people to do is spend more time with stablecoins, because I think, and I know that this is the case because this is how it was when I first joined the space. It was like, oh, stablecoins are like completely, you know, next to useless. That's just like where you're waiting. You're just in the waiting room sitting in purgatory. And it's like, no, dude, no, listen. If, like I say it all the time, I'm a goddamn broken record. Debasement and inflation are torching your dollar's purchasing power every single year to double-digit percentage points. Okay, inflation, right, is the ever-rising cost of goods and services, and debasement is the printing of money to inflate the supply of money, which hurts its value, of course. So those two things put together, we normally don't talk about debasement as much as we should, but those two things put together hurt your purchasing power to an unbelievable amount. Like if you went and just looked up, if you just Google or ask ChatGPT, like, give me some really sad facts about the US dollar. It's a depressing list, but you know, you've lost like over 90% of your purchasing power since 1913.
Yeah, exactly. And you talk about like, I see all the jokes in the headlines from like people's videos on Twitter. It's like, you want to talk about what a meme coin is? What's the worst shit coin ever? United States dollar, just based off of the value that we've lost overall. And that's what it says. Like, purchasing back into stables gives you more use case for your dollar. Plain and simple. It is what it is, right? And digital use case is what I focus on, obviously, more than anything. And I talk about this with like my non-crypto exposed friends. Like, why are you so deep in this? How do you feel confident in overall? And I'm like, it's because people are building on top of it, and the tech keeps scaling enough where I feel like there's more entry, so I don't have to be nervous, right?
Yes.
Where it's just that much more stagnant on the other side of things. And like last week, even in all the stagnation, there were still interesting things that came out of last week. I think like, even though the crypto, like everyone looks at all these like government like involvements, you can like veer them one way or another. But overall, like seeing the SEC roundtable was actually encouraging to me, right? Like the discussions surrounding like what does make a security, right? Like why does the Howey test still apply today? Does it really apply? Like, and it was just so funny to hear the comment, like the confidence level of the crypto native individuals on the board there, and saying like, yeah, well, like Howey couldn't like fragment or like you know, fractionalize his like the things that were being sold at the fruit stand, and then you couldn't talk about downstream revenue and all these other things. It's like, yeah, we've evolved. Like maybe it's time that our policy evolves with it. So just very interesting to see those takeaways overall.
I agree with you completely, dude. It was refreshing. And I had the same thought when we were fortunate enough to interview Commissioner Peirce last year. It was the same kind of thing. You know, sure, on its face, a lot of these things are security related issues if you just take raw Howey and the asset in question. But even going back, forget when it was now, a couple months ago, in one of the footnotes, I remember this is one of my favorite tweets ever. In the footnotes of the, I think, Binance lawsuit with the SEC. And at this point, Gary was still the chair. So right. The Gary Gensler SEC had admitted in a footnote that they have never once said that the cryptocurrency itself was the security. and that they were concerned about the manner in which it was sold and the investment contract. And it's like, that's a really interesting little tiny itty bitty tidbit detail to just like squeak into a footnote and never say publicly. And I just remember seeing Paul Grewal, who's the CLO, the chief legal officer for Coinbase, he quote tweeted it, and he was just like, Stuart Alderoty's head is going to explode when he wakes up.
Yeah, this little piece of it. And that piece, as far as like what the contract and what it's trying to serve, was like, oh my God, probably like 40% of the conversation last week and at the round table.
At least.
Like, at least, right? And it's so insane, right? So like it literally comes back to intention. But in an industry where it's almost like we are encouraged to like have the trustlessness of how we're supposed to operate, like that is a different tone for people that have been around here for a long time. It's like, hey, you have to be straight up about what the intention is behind these things, like the goal long term. Like obviously just like different ecosystems will have different goals as far as what they're looking to accomplish. Like, does it have governance power, right? With like ApeCoin, and that's how that was launched. Or is it just like another meme coin on the streets where it's like, hey, build up your own utility and see how things can go. So like for some of the people who haven't been around here long term, they're looking for like the important things for the general user right now is the hype play. Right, it's like let me see the hype movement and like see if that gives it any kind of direction. And then when those things fall flat, as they have, these tweets, these pushes by these random like conglomerate of people, it's like doing things. Then they see like something like this do almost nothing to the market, right? But just build like a little bit of confidence, and that doesn't make them excited. But for us, it's like, this is the point, yo. Like this is what actually gets the ecosystem moving overall. Which is why I'm still optimistic about the next few months here and holding out hope for like consistency and value that we see out of the the new crypto group here. Regime, I think they were calling themselves. Well, is that the name they were calling themselves? Something random like that. It was kind of crazy to hear Regime.
That is awful.
Like, yeah, exactly. Anything else you're watching on your side? I'm looking for like I keep saying this to my squad and like everyone out here, like something uncrowded, right? Like I think that's kind of how I'm focusing on my attention right now. Like a few of the things I'm always on the side of, obviously, like RWA is something that everyone's talking about and yapping like crazy. I still think like gaming pretty uncrowded right now and slept upon, yes. Right? Your Ronins, your IMXs, your AVAXs. I know last guest talked about AVAX lots. Still really excited for the direction that I think the ecosystems can grow when they really just have like very specific use cases where it like allows them to flourish. Is that kind of what you're doing right now?
Pretty much, yeah. My exposure, like I said, my exposure is to Solana because it's the only one that's identified and established culture that has mass appeal. And I'm excited to see more people start to kind of turn that over and work on it, because you have to have it. Like I was saying, right? Like the tech is all good enough to now start getting some users, and then you can work on the scaling once you actually have the users to accommodate it. But like, we've seen Solana handle crazy scale and it worked. So now everyone else has to get on the same page where they can get the users in. So that's what I'm waiting for there. Gaming wise, like you said, everything can always go down farther, but gaming has just been eviscerated in the past 6 months, and like none of the people have left, which really needs to mean more to people than I think it does. It really needs to register in an impactful way. Again, not to say that the token prices cannot continue to be sideways or down farther, because they can, but as a niche in the industry, I mean, the smartest people that I know in crypto are in gaming, right? I mean, the Betners are there. If there was nothing there, they wouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm. And I see, all the homies are still giving a ton of attention to it. Like we can compare those two ecosystems directly, right? Sol and their commitment to community, right? Like the steadfast, hey, it's $8, it doesn't matter, yep. Right? That group is the same exact like energy as the gaming industry,
same thing. Yep.
Where they are right now, but the gaming industry isn't on the timeline going crazy all the time. So we don't visibly see it, but it's the conviction and the user base that we need to lean on. And that essentially houses, like everyone sees, like never will you see the same thing happen twice in crypto, but you'll see similar things as far as like swing movements or where people draw their attention or how we essentially evolve. And that's what we're looking at right now. Can we see the same evolution? And will user base and the market give attention to actual people making impact onto chain metrics? That's what we'll see here if it's bigger than just the timeline yapping and all those things. But it's similar as far as how it's revolving, in my opinion.
No, I think you hit it. I think it's a direct carbon copy of the same idea, and it's a smaller group, and they're a little bit more scattered because there's more options. But at its core, there's a very strong sense of being agnostic with regards to your blockchain in the gaming space. Like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like prominent gaming voices, and I really think of just like all the guys at Wolves.
Yeah.
I don't know any maxis, man. I don't know anyone who's like, no, I'm not going to play that game. It's not on AVAX, or nope, not going to play
like
that game.
Fun
It's
shit, man.
not on Immutable. Yeah, they're just hungry for better opportunities and new stuff. And of course, if you guys have seen, because I show them all the time, they're wrapping up or just finished Wolves Den, which is their side. I can't even really call it a side event anymore. It's massive. But with GDC, the Game Developers Conference, which has just become so Web3. I mean, was it two GDCs ago? AVAX basically took over the conference with this giant Web3 gaming sucks booth, and it was good. John, you mentioned PlayStation. Look into Off the Grid. You can play it on console. It's solid. It's a good. Yeah. It's a good game.
It's the next level of how these things can evolve, right? And I think you saw Immutable have good presence there. A lot of teams were out just like swinging, right? And this is the time to like really double down on what you've done. You're seeing the communities double down a ton too. I think it's just going to take these things like time. And what we're seeing before was a lot of speculation on what are these games going to look like. And I think the next 6 months is how are these games going to deliver in play. And that's where you're going to see the rubber hit the road with all these gaming ecosystems and hopefully continue to evolve and win on the gaming side.
It's scaling too. I mean, we've seen a few games and gaming ecosystems, right, fall victim to controversy and whatever. Gala got neutered by a whole bunch of infighting. That one's kind of gone the way of the dodo now. I don't really see anything meaningful coming out of that side anymore. But Shrapnel as an individual game had some drama, some infighting, some problems. Then they managed to come through it, and the game still exists. I know that they're playing off their back foot right now, but still very much in the conversation.
It's survive in advanced mode.
Yep.
And that's the thing, like Shrapnel puts I think it was resources based, right? Like
sure,
dumping. And that's, I mean, again, gain mind share where you can. And when nobody else in the gaming ecosystem had it, they did. Right. So it was like, hey, let's take a massive portion of this, see how we can survive. And then you said infighting and kind of things happening on their side of like saying like, hey, X amount of people put this much effort into it. Like, where are we at as an ecosystem? Had to do a little bit of reset for sure.
Have you seen Farcade?
Yeah, of course I have.
Yeah, that's such an interesting, because if we take Off the Grid, take Shrapnel, take Treeverse, take Raven's Quest, take Wanderers, take any of these games that are in the Web3 niche that are like doing well or doing all right. The odds, can't stress this enough, the odds of a game to succeed are 100,000 times worse than the odds of every small business startup, which are already at like 90% chance of failure. 25,000 new games are launched on Steam every single year, and less than 1% of them make money. And I forget what the exact statistic is, but of that 1%, another little tiny sliver become like profitable and generate regular revenue and become a thing. And then at the end of the day, everyone still just plays Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So like gaming is so hard to get into. It's so hard to make something impactful there. And the fact that this many people are still there playing the stuff and doing, there was a comment here about just games as tools to onboard. I mean, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get any better than that. So 100%, dude, gaming has always had a big piece of my focus. And I've held Avalanche for a long time. And Ronin is up there. Just, I think I'm going to have to fact check myself on this one unless someone knows and can correct me. But I think as far as like just raw number of players, Ronin might be number one.
Oh yeah, Ronin's number one by far.
Okay.
And like IMX and them are always going to rival each other essentially based on like just user base and everything on that side. But it's number 1 and 2, and they've gone back and forth based off of like what seasons and what games are having more attention. But Ronin's by far in the first place right now. Other stuff is very interesting. The other last piece of news from last week that I thought was like just interesting to see the evolution of and see if it's like a good thing and bad thing, and the timeline reacted like on both sides of it. Was like the Pudgy Pengu ETF.
Yes.
Yeah, which I want to hear your take on this first and see if like what your thoughts are. Obviously, this isn't approved, right? This is just like, hey, Canary is filing for like potentially this to be an avenue for exposure investment and whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What's your initial take there?
So I saw it exclusively from tweets.
Yeah.
And I saw 2 tweets back to back. One was from ICO Beast, and he was just like, he was bearish, like hardcore bearish. He was like, this is
stupid as hell.
Yeah. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And then the very next one was from like, oh God, who was it? Shit. I'm gonna have to look it up because it was really funny. But they were like right on top of each other on my feed. Stupidest thing I've ever seen. And then some equivalent to like, this is the single greatest advancement in the history of the industry or something like that. And I was like, all right, so look this up. I mean, listen, dude, I think that applying for an ETF is just sort of the meme right now.
Yeah.
And we knew it the second the ETH ETF got approved, that got rammed through. I was like, dude, everyone and their grandmother is going to apply for an ETF. And I was at Consensus then right after the ETH ones had come through, and you had the biggest of big wigs on stage being like Solana ETF, XRP ETF, ADA ETF, Polkadot ETF, all these things. And I'm just like, dude, none of these are going to happen anytime soon. You know, I question whether or not the ETH one should have happened.
Yeah.
With the speed that it did, given that it's such a unique and different kind of asset. So, I mean, in that sense, dude, do I think it's going to get approved? No. Although we live in the upside down, so who fucking knows, dude?
Also that part, yeah.
But no, when I saw it, I was just, at first I thought it was like, okay, meme. The meme lords are meming right now with Pudgy and everything. But I was like, you know what, dude? I mean, if anyone has like turned the NFT thing into what everyone's pipe dream about their NFT project was, it's been Pudgy.
It's Luca, bro.
And I wouldn't sleep on Luca.
Can't.
I really truly wouldn't. You know, do I think that they deserve an ETF or that's a real thing? You know, no, not even a little bit. But I feel like the space has probably learned by now to stop exclusively betting against Luca to do big shit.
That's my opinion on it too. It's like everybody everyone regrets not buying a little Pudgy or a Penguin or whatever you had the opportunity to, just based off of like what they've meant for the space right now. And usually it's like one of those moments where like out of the gate it's like questionable a little bit, right? Like Luca had some like FUD thrown against him, and like Pudgy's didn't do all that well right off the gate. Okay, reset, recover, push hard, do IRL plushies, grow effectively, do all this cool stuff. I think the same thing's happening with Abstract, right? Like it's like, oh, like we'll see how things work overall. Like we'll see how it stumbles out of the gate a little bit and then establish itself as like this culture arm of what it means overall for like creators and streamers and all this stuff. Pretty bullish on that as well too. And now it's like the institutional side of things, because we had the Pudgy wearing the Van Eck hat, right? And that we were like, okay, interesting, what's happening in this relationship side? And then obviously Canary comes out with this filing. And so, yeah, absolutely, it's part of the meme, but it's also kind of part of the like, hey, let's see how much further we can push this, right? Like, let's see,
why not?
Because why not, right? They haven't failed yet. And it's one of those things where like, you got to be bullish on people just doing stuff when the majority of the NFT world is very quiet right now. So that's where I get excited about it, at least from the Luca perspective. He's a dude you want to believe in. Like you hear him talking, like that's my guy. Like you want to get behind his messaging.
You know what I think is interesting too? We talk about, you know, the validity of continuing to apply the Howey test to stuff like this. And one of the core pillars, one of the 4, you know, pillars of the Howey test is relying on the work of others. So implying that like you can buy a thing, do nothing, and collect on it.
Yes.
And I think, and I've long wondered why this doesn't come up in more of the arguments, and it's something I plan on bringing up, you know, the next time I get the opportunity to speak to the commissioner or hopefully more than one commissioner. In these tokenized communities, whether we're talking about groups of people who hold the same NFT collection or people who hold a fungible token, whether it's all ETH holders or AVAX holders or, you know, XRP holders, or take your pick. Honestly, for what I'm about to say, XRP holders with a bullet are probably number one. I think you can really erode the argument that you're relying on the work of others, because these people are out there all the time, like learning, working, pushing, talking about like spreading, onboarding, doing all the stuff. I think you'd be pretty, and I'm curious why it's never come up in conversation in a legal setting that I have ever seen, that, hey, clearly these things are failing the work of others prong, because these people are out here putting in work. I mean, like, so now we get into this like subjective conversation about what constitutes work and what counts as valid work. And then, that opens up a can of worms I don't think anyone wants to touch. It's like, oh, so me sitting here on my computer and putting in energy and effort to learn things and talk about stuff that's not work. Okay, so we're calling in no one remotely existing online is working, like, hot take. And I just think it would be such a brutal road for like opposing counsel to go down if someone brought that up. And I'm curious why it hasn't come up. And something like Pudgy, it's in that conversation for sure, because I mean, one of the things we talked about way back when we were first messing around and when we launched TFM was like, if you give people a reason to care about something, and everyone has a vested interest in the success of an ecosystem, and that's why decentralization is cool, and that's why that's ultimately what's being stolen from you when your data gets pirated away from you and just sold out from underneath you to a third party, without your knowledge. You have nothing to do with that equation. You don't get to be in that equation anymore. You're just like churning it out. You're a red mining helium-3 on Mars. If you get that reference, we can be friends.
Which one of us?
So in that sense, I don't know. I'm curious. I don't know, man. That's really my take. Like, why not? I don't think it's gonna get approved, but hey, why the hell not? Then again, like I said, nothing surprised me anymore. If I woke up tomorrow and it was like, hey, it's approved, it's like, okay.
All right. Yep. All right. another cat, like feather in the hat of Web3, right? It's like, oh, we did something like silly again. And so it's just interesting to watch these things evolve, as you're saying here. But you're absolutely right on the side of like, is me, like, I wear a PFP every single day, right? Like, that's like how I rock on the space, like as a Zuki bean. I float around and do my thing, but like, is that like doing work for the community? And that's like the thing. It's like, okay, like, yeah, I guess it is in some instances, but in some instances, just, yeah, right? Like, it's just me wearing a flag. That's what it is.
It's advertising, dude. I mean,
that's what it. Yeah.
The guy wearing the costume, twirling the sign on the street corner is working.
Yeah,
he's
literally, and deserves to be compensated. So like Azuki, HMU, my DMs and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'll take more anime. It's in the gutter, but we'll see what happens.
I do want to ask you, because you are still the proud wearer of a PFP.
Crazy.
Obviously, there's been a concerted effort amongst some of the OGs to push interest back towards NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
It's been coming up more and more and more lately. Undoubtedly it's being coordinated by something. I don't know what, but something happened. Whether it's just, the fact that a lot of these guys have just been getting the pressure for a long time to do something, and they were overshadowed by for so long by the meme world, that they decided, okay, it's time to push again. Maybe sentiment has changed. Maybe people are yearning for a simpler time. One, have you purchased any new ones recently? If so, what were they? Or if you haven't, are you eyeing anything? And then I will tell you that I bought 2 in the past couple months, and I'll tell you exactly what they were after you answer.
You gotta let me on a cliffhanger to embarrass myself first.
Yep.
What's the last NFT I bought? I'm looking at my Activate. Yeah. So it's been a minute, right? Oh no, far too long. So 6 months ago I bought a few Dead Fellows because I really like Betty. Transparent, that's literally all it is. Like, I really like how she's great. I like how she speaks. Like, she's standing right behind me. I got her little toy hanging out. Like, I like what they build. It's slow. I like slow ecosystems, dude. You know that. Like, something I don't have to pay attention to every other day and be like, oh, did the price do this? Did the price do that? I was a part of and so that was on the ETH side. I was a part of a few like free mints that popped off effectively for a few of the new chain launches. DXNK was on ETH that got me nothing to 0.3 ETH. I was like, woo. So that was fun on that. And I'm always lurking, right? Like, I lurked on Doodles for too long and now it ran up too heavily for my liking. But that was like one thing I was always looking at, like seeing if I can dip my toe in a little bit and acquire. I still think there's value in like a few very sleepy ecosystems that may wake up, right? Your MFers, your sappy seals, stuff on that side that I'm going to always be looking at. Nothing has like piqued my interest all that much to say like, it's overdue. I need to do it on my side. Yeah, even Quirkies is jumping at me right now on the chart. So what is on your end? What are you looking at? What have you purchased? I'm excited to hear that. That's for sure.
So I bought 2. One of them was exclusively. I didn't even look at the price history or like anything. I don't know anything about the project. I just know Camel. And
Aura.
Yeah, got an Aura because
good. The win token.
Because Camel's killing it, and I love Camel. And nobody in NFTs is putting in harder work than Camel.
Never, dude. He deserves. He should be at the meeting for the review of the Howey test. I'm like, yo, this guy.
Yeah, he's the definition of putting in work. So got one and just happened upon a lucky floor snag, and
nice.
It's done well, and it's up over 2.5x. I have standing offers that I'm turning down 2.5x higher than what I paid for it. So that's exciting.
Good.
And then just because every time I see somebody with the PFP, with one exception, post something, it's good. Bodoggos.
I've had my Bodoggos for a long time, dude.
Yep, I did not have one, but I'm a big fan of Vo, and I like reading what she has to say. I don't know. Amy's a friend of Vo's, and then I mean Easy. I enjoy reading things from Easy.
He's the only KOL I trust right now, dog.
Rich, I could take him or leave him, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's some of those like Toby's where I'm like, okay, like, can you please shut the fuck up? But the thing is, like, it's almost a level of cringy that's acceptable because it brings attention. There's been some borderline like questionable things for sure on that side.
Definitely.
But still, like, dude, the amount of value, like, you can just scroll down Easy's timeline, and if you guys in the chat don't know, it's Easy Eats Bodega, bodega that you go out and you buy a bagel at. Like those, like, just literally scroll down his timeline, and you're just like, holy crap! Like these people, this guy gets it, right, and he understands like. When the time to pivot away from just like push to the I'm making a lot of money vibe he was instantly pivoting to value, and he's like been a Solana OG for so long, and then he's like, oh, here's why Solana has value. It's more than just the meme coins, circus. It's more than just this, that, and the other thing. Here's what I'm focusing on now that's kind of dissipated a little bit, which is how you know that he's legitimate, right? And from all the interactions IRL, like, the whole thing, the vibe that him and Vo have is like the Web3 like couple of the year is so funny to me. And so it's just like, it's perfect, right? These are good people that deserve that attention. So yeah, Sugartown, great call. Bodoggos, great call. Sugartown sitting at 0.16. Still tasty to me. I'm not sure what you bought it at. Probably like a little bit less than 0.1 or something.
Less than 0.1, yeah. 0.0.
Yeah.
I scraped one at like 0.07 or 0.08.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Such a kill. That's awesome. That's good stuff. And then Bodoggos, I'm gonna look at it because I haven't looked at. I see, like, this is the thing. I don't feel the need 1.75. Yeah. Don't feel the need to look at these things because like I'm getting value out of being part of the community. Like I want to rock my dog, actually. I think it might switch eventually from my bean just because I'm kind of feeling it.
And plus I always like it when I can find something that's like on the floor that I enjoy, so the dog is just like covered in tattoos, and I was like, oh yeah, obviously, for sure.
It's an aesthetic thing, dude. Like my bean is cool because obviously it's a part of Azuki, and I like the anime culture on that side. But more so, it's like it's got a matching beanie and shoes. It's got lightning because I have like a sparky personality, right? Like it speaks to me.
No, it's good. I mean, that's
in a lot of ways.
That's what I had always said from the beginning. Like if you're gonna dabble in this world, you got to plan on just losing it. So you got to buy things that you like. You got to buy things.
I like the art.
So okay, let's back it up just a tiny little bit, and we are, we're in the area of winding it down here. So Nil, I appreciate you jumping on to keep me company here.
Always.
We just talked a tremendous amount of inside baseball and mentioned lots of names from crypto Twitter that nobody not on Twitter is going to have any clue who Vo and Easy and all these people are. So there's really two worlds in Web3. There is the world that's living on TikTok, which is that's what we do. That's where I live. That's like real human beings that have like a desire to learn either a new skill a new method of passive income, a new way to diversify investments, a new way to better your financial situation and standing, all these different things, and are interested in crypto to provide one of the options to improve that part of the world. And then there's the like core, like insider group of the industry itself, which lives on Twitter. They are very siloed. These two worlds do not intermingle at all until Nil got here. Is a big chip in that armor. It's what we've been working on for a very long time. And but other than literally the people on your screen right now and Will and Evan, who are mid rug of me right now, there's really not much that cross pollinates between these two worlds. So if you were to go over onto Twitter right now, like fresh, and just start searching up crypto stuff, I guarantee that within 24 hours, people like Easy, people like Vo, people like Betty, they would be popping up on your feed because they are just constantly there talking, posting, doing whatever. Betty is involved with an NFT project called Dead Fellas, which is another super OG ETH project. They're little green zombie guys. They've got a game now, or that they've been working on. I don't know if it's live or playable yet, but I've seen some whisperings of it. And then Easy is involved with a project called Bodagos. There's a bunch of those guys. Vo, she works at Magic Eden. I don't remember exactly what her position at Magic Eden is, but stuff. Yeah, I think literally her job description, her Twitter bio says stuff.
She does, dude. Like she plans events and closes BD deals. Vo's just a Magic Eden wizard. She is the magic behind Eden.
Schmack says, "What mid-rug?" No, I just mean they left me solo today on the show. They both had last-minute things come up and had to go tend to some stuff to leave me holding down the fort. They're not literally. I mean, they rug me every day, but not in the bad way.
This is the CTO of the Rise Up Morning Show currently.
Yeah, pretty much. This is the grumpy old man that sits on the front porch and points a shotgun
at
kids on the lawn. Yeah. Ugh. So anyway, It is
where it send people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Bro, that's such a hard. It's a loaded question right now, right? Like you mentioned the best ones. I think that the best morning show that I would say is like equivalent to what you all do is Coffee with Captain, right? And that's playing right now. That's Steve K. Bark, who is just loaded up his show, of course, and so it's talking over it. It's NFT Steve, I believe or NF Steve. I gotta look it up. But him and Captain, like they've hosted a morning show since the apes were like anything, right? I think they're around like 4 years at this point. And Steve luckily lives in Cleveland, so good friend of mine and like local to me as well. So just makes sense for us to have connection. It's Steve K. Bark. That's what it is. His full @ is Steve K. Bark. Both individuals just highlight a bunch of unique ecosystems, right? So depending on like the flavor of the day, obviously they have like conversations over what's happening currently. Like what is the thing that's happening? They talked about like the Solana marketing mishap. And they talked about the Pudgy movements and all the things that happen in the ETF. But they also just bring on very unique people. Like I was on there like about a week and a half ago just to speak on like where we're going with Polygon and just some discussions that really like broaden the ecosystem a little bit more. They typically, I'd say, are value based, and they really will push you towards like, again, their engagement isn't very high, right? Like it isn't like comparison to like where all these like traders are, but overall the value prop that they have is always going to be like very evident on
and that's
their
always
side,
how it goes. That's
I mean, that's what it is.
If you look for things that have just been consistently pushing, despite the fact that they have worse engagement by the numbers than the big like loudmouth KOL bullshit, that's probably the place to go.
I would say on that side too, and there's still some like middle grounds that I would say you should be looking at. Obviously, there's the gaming side with all the Wolves and Sam and everything that they do. Even like Farouk still from Rug Radio is still providing a good amount of value overall. There's shilling of all flavors, I'll say, all like exactly of like degrees of shilling. We'll call it that, right? But I still think that like he provides some great stuff through Rug Radio and the community that they have on their side. Obviously, like you should stay away from your Mario No Falks and all that kind of stuff. But everything else, you just kind of have to like kind of experience it yourself. Jump into a space, hear what they're saying. Don't believe the hype. Just believe to see like what their actual base layer is. Right? Is it value based? Great. Stick with that and kind of feel it out. My entire goal is like to honestly try to not commingle these ecosystems too heavily yet, at least right now, where it is so cloudy. I think either way, right? Like bringing our communities over there more and more, it's going to confuse things, if anything, or get people lost. And bringing the communities over from Twitter to here doesn't make sense to me either, because not that many people want to work hard and push value. So it's like I can't. That's why I haven't been tweeting about it that heavily. I think I put out one post on like my TikTok efforts ever. It's because I don't think they're ready to do it. I don't think that people are ready to do the work, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you just gotta move fast and break things, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I do believe that there's good stuff to read on crypto Twitter, but I would say that you need to be equipped with the jargon before you go over there, because it's heavy. And if you don't know the jargon, I don't know of anyone. I've never come across anybody who's doing like a concerted effort for beginners on Twitter, just because there's no beginners on Twitter. They just don't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where that's why I haven't been pushing it that long and that much. Just like keep the ecosystem small, be like really contained of your efforts, and everything that you need is basically on TikTok for now, until you need some more in-depth knowledge, and you can go explore ecosystems and communities and grow your own social following. I think that's cool, right? A little more accessible for people that don't want to put their face out there every single day. That's fine for that, right? Anything else you're looting today? You're kind of just wrapping up shop here.
No, man, we're about to ride the proverbial dogs and ponies off into the sunset, so you get to do that here with me. I'm gonna get on the road here. I'll be around. If you guys are not in the Discord, it's discord.gg/riseup. It is completely free to join, ask your questions, get to know people, kind of, get assimilated into the culture of Web3 in a little bit different way. There's a tremendous amount of people over there providing value every single day. Nil, to go back, the other big thing I'm focused on, that I'm always focused on, is just the world of DeFi as a niche. It's the biggest, baddest, best part about Web3 for me. And I am currently putting together a pretty mondo, just like beginner to advanced. I think it's got 21 modules.
Hell yeah.
Class that I would really like to try to perfect and hone and potentially take on the road and do at universities or something like that, if I can get some more ins and everything. So come hang out. Discord's free, discord.gg/riseup. Usually I would have that in a little box over here, but Evan's not here and I don't know how to do it, so I didn't do it because I need Evan. But no, dude,
not heard at all about it, guys. Don't stress. He's not heard about this at all.
No, I'm not bitter, not at all. It really does take me back, because that's how I broke into TikTok. I was an amateur Twitch streamer before I came to TikTok, and then I came over here and just started. I streamed from midnight to 3 a.m. every day for over a year.
There it goes, brother. I mean, you know my grind, right? I'll be on that. I'll probably wrap up for another hour, get some work done, and then jump on at 11 a.m. for a vibe session, keep growing and keep doing my thing. So that's the energy this week.
Hell
as
yeah.
always.
Very cool. Well, I will. I'll be tuning in to listen to you. Of course, if you guys are not following Nil, do yourself a favor. He didn't mention it because he's a nice guy. He does work at Polygon, and he's got a bunch of great insights into the industry. This is a dude who also lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes crypto, and Web3, has been here for years. We are going to Consensus together this year, so that's very exciting. And I'm excited to meet you in person finally for the first time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you jumping in. And guys, if you don't follow Nil, do the thing. Do yourself a favor, and then go ask him all of your questions that I didn't help you with today. He goes,
yeah, I'll be the entry layer here to the Rise Up Morning Show as always. I appreciate you a ton, Alex, for the time this morning. Always looking forward to vibing, and enjoy the rest of your week. All right.
You too, man. For all the rest of you, I appreciate all of you guys hanging out with me today. Today was a little bit unconventional, but that's all right. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern, right here. Bring your questions, bring all that good stuff, and thanks again for bearing with me. It is impossible, unfortunately, for me to do my level of chat involvement on all the places and also run the show at the same time. So I appreciate it. If you had a question today that you did not get answered, that you would like to get answered, discord.gg/riseup, and just toss it in general for me, and I will work through as many of them today as I possibly can. And I'll keep you all posted on the DeFi class, because I'm very excited. And obviously, if you guys are in the Discord, and especially the on the premium side, you're going to get all that shit for free. So I'm curious to get your feedback when it's live. I'm very excited. So thanks, guys. I will see you bright and early. Hey, thank you. Bright and early, first thing tomorrow. Until then, take care, guys. Rise up.